welcome to the Blended Insight podcast. Hey, bright souls, this is Susan with Blended Insight, and thank you for joining me. For those of you that don't know me, I am an intuitive, an energy healer, and an integrative/holistic wellness practitioner. And all any of that means is that I love to learn and grow and share everything I've learned to help and inspire others to do the same. On today's podcast, I want to talk about weight loss. When you simply cannot lose weight, or you cannot keep it off, or you can't get yourself started to go on a diet or develop a new healthy nutrition plan, this is the podcast for you. In this podcast, I want to talk about troubleshooting, essentially, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual. I want to share with you everything that I've personally experienced and what I've learned to try to help and support you to get going on this and get it solved once and for all. So first of all, just a little bit of background with me. I grew up in Arkansas, okay, and we ate horribly. I did not grow up with proper nutrition. I had chronic bladder infections and kidney infections. I even had bursitis in my shoulders in the 5th grade, for crying out loud. I had so many health problems because I had a very acidic body. We drank Dr. Pepper and chocolate milk all the time. I never drank water. And so obviously my kidneys were screaming and crying and needing some help, but we just didn't know any better. I grew up on bagel bites and mozzarella sticks and pizza and Little Debbie snacks and Nutty Buddies and pure junk. That's all that I grew up with. So I was not an overweight child, but I was not an optimally healthy child. And I remember being around adults that were constantly talking about going on diets. I mean, my mother, my neighbors, her sisters, they were always on a diet. So I remember being in the 5th grade thinking, oh, maybe I should go on a diet. And no one argued with me, and I wasn't overweight. So let me just say that this was something mental. This was something like a cultural thing. And so I switched from Dr. Pepper to Tab. If any of you are old enough to remember Tab, it's a diet soda. I don't even think they make it anymore. And so then I started doing that. And it was just this constant awareness of not being okay in your body or needing to lose weight. Essentially, what that boiled down to is just poor nutrition, where my body was just struggling. So fast forward to adult times, some of that could have been a negative pattern conditioning that started really early. But as I got older and I joined the military, I learned that everybody else ate much differently than I did, and I ate really poorly. So I started drinking water. It was required. And I started learning about nutrition and thinking, wow, my body feels a lot better when I actually drink water instead of just soda and milk and these heavy acidic substances that I was just destroying my body with. And so I started to eat better, feel better, and it kind of started me on this path of learning more about nutrition. Because my early conditioning was full of junk, I like chocolate and I like junk food and pastries and things like that. So I have to monitor myself. I don't have that type of genetic makeup to where I can just eat whatever and I'm going to be okay. The women in my mom's family struggle with their weight. I've always known them to struggle with their weight. And so I also grew up seeing them struggle with their weight and thinking, okay, I don't want to be overweight. So I need to monitor myself and reel myself in. So if I gain a couple of pounds, I'm uncomfortable. I want to slim it back down. I want to monitor myself and have a structured, disciplined lifestyle. And so if any of that is resonating with you, I'm right there with you. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that this is not a substitute for medical care. I am not a medical physician. I have taken a nutrition certification course, and I have studied nutrition and personally experimented with nutrition for many years. And so I'm sharing my personal experiences, what I've been through, and what I have found to work for myself and for others. So this is just meant as informative. Take what resonates with you. If nothing resonates with you, that's okay. I appreciate your time and your energy of just listening and considering a different viewpoint. So what I want to talk about is mental, physical, and possible spiritual reasons why you are unable to lose weight. And I've personally experienced all of these. And so I'm with you. This isn't to make you feel bad. This is to make you feel better. This is to empower you and give you some suggestions and possibly some things to think about to help you to dive deeper into yourself, to troubleshoot what's going on, and to help you get that power to create a plan that's going to work for you in the future. So the very first thing I want to say is when we want to lose weight, and this is if you are overweight or you're not your optimal health, whatever the reason is, if you have an eating disorder, then that's something separate, and I'm not qualified to speak to that. I'm talking about those of us who maybe are 5 or 10 pounds overweight, maybe more, it doesn't matter, 100 pounds even, but you know in yourself that you are not the weight that you should be for your optimal health, and you don't feel your best because you know that you've put on some weight and you want to take it off. That is who this podcast is designed to help and support, because I can speak to that because I live it. So the reason that you want to do that is because you want to look and feel your best. And to me, that is a very positive characteristic, to want to be your very best self. Most of us on the spiritual health journey, we're on it because we want to be the very best versions of ourselves. So for me, that is a very positive thing. If you're berating yourself, you need to stop that right now. Instead of berating yourself for where you are, congratulate yourself on wanting to make a change, and then open yourself up to find that very best path that is going to support you in that change. I know how frustrating it is if you've actually been eating well and you've tried everything, you don't feel anything is working. I'm going to talk about that too because I've been there. But the first thing I want to go over is mental reasons why. If you're one of those people that you want to lose weight but you can't stick to it, I heard Iyanla Vanzant say this one time in one of her radio shows years ago, and it really resonated with me. Someone called in and said, I really want to lose weight, but I just don't stick to my diet. And she said something for me that was profound. She told her, do you know why you won't stick to your diet? And the lady was quiet, and she said, it's because it's not a priority to you. Imagine this. If you were approached by some Hollywood producer that told you that you were the perfect person for their film that they're producing that's going to bring $1 million into your life, and they told you for this specific role, they need you to drop 20 pounds in this amount of time, would you lose the weight? Most people would say yes. If I had that level of motivation and that reason to lose the weight, that would be a priority for me, and I'm going to get the weight off. So if it's a mental thing to where you just don't hold yourself accountable, then it's probably just not a big enough priority for you in your life. And when it becomes a priority, then you will find the ways to make that work. It's just something to consider. That's why you'll see a lot of people that enter marathons, or they enter some type of, we're the way that our human mind works is that we're sort of goal-oriented and deadline-oriented. If we have to get it done, we'll get it done. But if we don't have to get it done, then it's very easy for us to just throw it to the wayside and not pay attention to it. That's just human nature. Now, I will say for me, the only time that I ever just am not motivated is if it's only like 5 pounds and it's not really showing in my clothes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it. But there's a certain threshold. If I go over that, absolutely no, because I don't feel good. If I'm not feeling good in my body is so important. This is my vessel for doing my work, for taking care of my family. This is how I show up in the world. So my physical body is extremely important to me. So I don't want to go over a certain limit. Then I start getting uncomfortable to where I'm like, okay, let me make a change. So it's different for everyone. I'm just giving you that to just sort of help you to troubleshoot what it is for you. The next thing is physical. This totally happened to me. Over the years, my body requires different things. So what worked for me maybe 5 years ago, dietary-wise and exercise-wise, does not work for me today. Your body is changing and growing, so you have to adapt. What you once did may not work now. So that's for many reasons. There could be hormone fluctuations. There could be all kinds of things going on in the body. Our health is very complicated and it's very unique. So I always say there's no one size fits all to nutrition and exercise. When I was in the military, I worked out very hard on my body. I was very like drill sergeant like with my body, and I would just force it to go through these tough exercises. And I remember going through a spiritual fast with a church that I was a part of. We were on a 3-day fast, and I was out running 3 miles on like my 3rd day of a fast, which is insane now I think about that. And I had this very tough approach to my body, but nowadays that won't work for me. That will spike my cortisol levels. I'll gain weight. I can't work out that way, and I can't treat myself that way anymore. So consider whether or not you just need to change your approach to what you're doing. This next thing that is so prevalent is emotional eating. And that does affect us mentally and physically. I did a whole class on Learn It Live. It's only $8. It's a 1-hour class. It is packed full of everything that I learned really before the nutrition certification and after, but we had to go through a whole emotional eating program. And so I kind of took that information with everything else I had learned. In that class, I do a quiz to help you figure out your emotional eating style. And I also share very specific strategies to help you break that pattern and interrupt it if you're emotional eating. I have the tendency to emotional eat. I know that. And so if I'm all of a sudden experiencing stress and I'm craving chocolate and I'm not ovulating and it's not going to be around that time of month and it's out of character for me, then I will use those tricks and those tips to say, hold it. What am I craving right now? Is it love that I'm wanting? What is it? Am I bored? It helps you to get in the mindset. Now, I'm human. Sometimes I know that consciously and I emotionally eat anyway. I'm aware of that in myself. But the more that we put attention on it and raise our awareness, the easier it is for us to interrupt the pattern, identify it, and shift our behavior. And I will put a link in the show notes to that class if you're interested. Like I said, it really should be more than $8 for 1 hour full of very valuable material, but I actually did it as a service. There needs to be some type of exchange so that you actually commit to it. What I have found is even with my YouTube channel, I give a lot of information for free. And when there isn't a exchange or a commitment, people don't take it as seriously. So you need to invest something so that we're equally exchanging and you'll get the most value out of it. And $8 is honestly really, really cheap. The last thing I want to talk about is something that I recently experienced, and it was so frustrating. I was in a really stressful situation. I had people in my life that were energy vampires. They were pulling on me. And when a person is trying to get something from you, you can feel it in your body. You can feel it as taking energy. And because these people were so close to me, I had a very difficult time establishing a boundary, and I wasn't sure how I could get out of the situation. And I felt like I was a full-time counselor for years. Like there was no break. I had no downtime. And so all of a sudden, I just started gaining weight, and I wasn't eating to support it. I actually went to a nutritionist and a thyroid doctor, like a hormone doctor, to do hormone tests on me to test my cortisol levels. And when your cortisol levels spike, it will cause you to gain weight. But even with that, they were like, okay, they're a little high, but they're not supporting the fact that you're not losing any weight. The nutritionist put me on this Reparavite cortisol cleanse type of thing, where I was basically following an autoimmune paleo diet for months. And when I'm committed, I have a very strong will center. I will stick to it because my health is everything to me. And I just couldn't figure out. It was such a mystery. I was exercising. I mean, if I was just eating terribly, I get it, but I wasn't. And we did this full intense cleanse where they said, oh yeah, people normally at least lose 15 pounds. I didn't lose a single pound. So I was like this mystery, and no matter what I tried, I wouldn't lose weight. I did a ketogenic eating style, which in the past, before ketogenic was a thing, if I cut my carbs and I do like a moderate fat diet, I would always lose weight and I would feel better and reduce inflammation, but none of that was working. So really, what it boiled down to is that I am an energetically sensitive person. And these people that were in my life, mainly really one person, I just could not have a daily interaction with that person any longer. The energy of the person was just draining me to a level that I wasn't ready to accept. And so that's why my body started to show me, because your body is the last place it shows up. You'll get all the signs, the little drop-ins, and you can ignore them. Even me and the intuitive work that I do, I also struggle with it. So this is something very human. And us as energy healers and as light workers, sometimes, we go through these things. It's all part of the human experience. So I'll tell you what, as soon as I finally said, okay, enough. I can't do this anymore. I've tried everything that I can do. I've set my boundaries. I've tried to help. But there's a level where you can only help so much, but then someone else has to also do their work. So if you're the one that's always taking classes and doing your healing work and meditating, and you're trying to vibrate higher, and they're just sucking off of you and trying to get you to do all the work for them, that's an energy vampire. It's time to cut ties and move on. And so I did. I said, that's it. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And the most miraculous thing happened. As soon as I did that, the weight began to fall off. I went to a weight loss center just because they do a ketogenic type of approach that I know that normally works for me. And so I found a place locally. And so I just went up there because I'm like, you know what? I want to normalize my health. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to really adjust the ketogenic lifestyle to work for me. And they basically promote a moderate carb, really a low fat and high protein type of ketogenic eating style. And it still gets you in ketosis and all that other stuff. So I went there and consulted with them. And so we kind of developed a plan. And the main thing was I was away from that person. So my cortisol levels relaxed, my energy relaxed, and it's like, oh my goodness, my body's like, we're free. Okay, we don't have to pad you with all of this extra weight anymore. We can just let it go. Sometimes that's the case, especially like I said before, if you're energetically sensitive. So that's something to consider if you feel like nothing else is working. And in your body, if the situation is something that is not supporting you any longer. It doesn't mean that the person's bad or wrong, and it doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong. It simply means that you're no longer a match. And when that happens, sometimes it takes us a little while to listen, but when we decide to make that change, miraculous things can happen. So what I want to close with before we do a energy healing and a meditation to help you really gain some clarity and get that inspiration and motivation to do what you need to do to support your very best self is, being overweight if you're in America, it really doesn't matter where you are. It's an epidemic these days. It's difficult. The portions are bigger. The food sources and supplies are really eroded with genetically modified ingredients, and everyone's trying to get cheaper, more profit. So creating a cheaper product. And so it's a difficult and confusing world to navigate. So I totally get it. I just want to say that you should be really kind to yourself. Beating yourself up will not work. Some people need a little bit of push, but the push doesn't have to be mean and negative. So I just want you to love yourself. And when I'm trying to lose weight or improve my health, it's because I want to love my body. I respect that this body is my vessel to live in the world, to do my work, to share my gifts and talents. So it's important for me to take care of it, and it's important for you to take care of yours. So whatever that shows up and looks like for you, that's your path, that's your lesson, that's your journey, and it's all good. It's perfectly okay. You have the free will to make the right choices for yourself. And people like me, we're here to support because we're all in this together, and you're not alone. We get it. The people listening to this podcast, on some level, we get it, or else I wouldn't be creating the podcast and you wouldn't be listening to it. So with that said, let's do a beautiful energy healing to help you gain some clarity. Just breathing deeply and opening yourself up to receive a crystal clear answer on what the best path is for you at this time. Your body knows. Maybe you need to make yourself a priority. Set yourself a deadline, a goal. Maybe you need to get a physical, get your hormones checked. Maybe you need to leave a stressful situation behind. Maybe you need to stop arguing for your limitations and find a way. Prioritize. you to raise your vibration, because this is meant to empower you, not to make you feel bad about yourself. Activating your will center. Okay, and so it is. I want to thank you so much for listening to this podcast and connecting with me in this way. I want to tell you that if you have any podcast suggestions, you can send me a message at susan@blendedinsight.com. You can visit me at Blended Insight, connect with me on my Facebook page. By the way, I shared a 15-minute walk from home workout on my Facebook page. If you go to YouTube, you can type in Happy Walk. I'm not affiliated with the person at all, but it's just a really fun walk at home exercise program that I thought was really neat. So if it's an exercise program that you need to do, hey, there's so many free things on YouTube, something that you can do at home. 15 minutes. Everyone has 15 minutes. You can't tell me you don't have 15 minutes of your day. Start little. Get going on what it is that you need to do to create your very best version of yourself and to live your healthiest, happiest, most blissful life. And with that said, thank you so much. And I hope you have a beautiful, healthy, inspiring, enlightening day. Thanks again.